So you've been to Cannes how many times now?
I'm trying to think. It was on the road and Cloud de Sils Maria, and I guess 3. This is my 4th time.
And you like it?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that you stress out about a little bit just because of the sort of prestige and wanting to live up to that, and kind of like wrestling the idea of like placing yourself somewhere that cinema is like so important, and you're like, God, I don't know, I just like make movies. But then you get here and it just takes over, and my anxiety washes away completely, and it's like really one of my favorite places to talk about movies.
But when you look up at something like this, you do, when you do a press conference like that, you're under a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah, I was actually, when I sat down, I was like, oh, this is their moment. I know this feeling, and it's usually like the biggest thing on my mind is that I'm representing the director the way that he wants himself in the film to be represented. I'm always like, I hope I speak to it correctly and kind of like get out the message that he wants to get out there, or she wants to get out there. But in this case, I'm walking into all of these interviews being like, I'm not working for anyone but myself, so ask me anything.
That is so great. So whose idea was it to, have you thought about shooting a film before, over the years?
No, it just happened. No, of course. Yeah, I've been wanting to make movies since I was 9 or 10 years old, and protecting that little bit of inspiration, just like, if one notion gets everyone in a room and drives them to do something as crazy as making a movie, which takes a lot of manpower and heart and gusto and money and time, like I would watch my parents just work like 6 days a week, 16-hour days, and be like, what are you doing? Like, it must really be worth something. And then I grew up and realized, like, my favorite directors are people that want that gathering and want to facilitate that exploration rather than sort of packaging and delivering a story just to be like the god of this movie. It's like everyone who is on that set affects the energy, which affects the performances, which affects how you capture it and how you shoot it. Like every single person there is making the movie. Everyone is equally making that movie. And so I got a taste of that quite young. I saw my parents do it. I wanted to be a part of that process. I started auditioning and acting. And so to be at the sort of helm is just a lovely feeling, because, if you have an idea and it transfers onto other people, and you see people who initially just wanted to do you a favor actually become selfishly desirous of owning that story. Like, I saw my crew go from being like, all right, Kristen, what do you need us to do? Like, we'll do, you're our homie. We're working for you. Like, what do you need? And then all of a sudden I saw them kind of switch on, and everything was like a selfish, desire-based experience. Like, I watched them be like, no, this is what I need it to be. I'm like, all right, do it. Like, that's what you need. Like, I planted that seed. The only reason you're feeling this way is because I was like, hey, what about this? And then it just snowballs into something that you can never control, and that's ultimately what the movie is. And
so Refinery came to you and said, we'd like you to do a short?
No, we went to them for cash. It's bad juju to fund your own movies. And
so you had heard that they were doing these shorts. You had friends who had done them, or
Chloe Sevigny
had
done a really, really beautiful movie and had a really great experience with them. And we got on a call with that whole team, and their whole philosophy behind why they're doing it is really quite beautiful, and they're so
it's about
supportive.
Women.
So they were just incredibly supportive and gave more than I ever imagined anyone would ever give me for a first time thing, based on basically an outline. The script was really not much of a script. It was like kind of like poems shoved together and slug lines of like basically me being like, I know it's kind of hard to put your finger on, but just trust me, it's going to be a big, huge wave and it's going to hurt like hell. And they're like, well, what is that? How are you going to capture that? I'm like, well, I need a phantom camera and I need an underwater photographer. He's living in Australia right now. So, and it just became like bigger and bigger, and they supported it throughout. So
you're pursuing a very avant-garde, dreamlike capturing of some kind of fear?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a fear of yourself, basically, like not really thinking that you can participate in the sort of regular, kind of like normal default setting that we all sort of dwell in, which is lovely, but basically it's about water because water is so much stronger than us, and it's also so vital. It's essential to our lives. You know, we're made up of mostly water. Yet in trying to like fight a wave, you're never gonna, you will tire and drown immediately. If you let your body go and you try and just float, you'll float to the surface. You're gonna live. So it's just kind of one of those things. Like I'm a control freak. I hate anything like that I can't like wrestle down. And so I kind of wanted to tell this story of a man who finds himself on the bottom of the ocean and is just fully saturated and moving through life as if it's water, and then kind of coming out of that and breathing some air and realizing that pain that he is really just aggrandized is very normal, and everyone else has experienced it. And as soon as you step out of that, you go, oh, okay, I'm an idiot. I'm young. Do you know what I mean? Like, just sort of that first moment where you're like, this is the worst I've ever felt and I'll never feel any differently. And then you go, actually, I'm fine.
The movie is gorgeous.
Thank you.
You know, there's some great shots. That opening of the water is fabulous.
I love it.
I've so not obsessed. Seen an image like that before.
Yeah, it just never. I wrote it. It was just like, it's a wave that grows and grows and just never breaks. And all you want it to do is just kill you. It's like, oh my God, just come on, just break. And it just never, ever breaks. It's terrible. It's like a nightmare.
So what was scary about it, and what was fun about it and gratifying for you?
I kept thinking that there was going to be some sort of question that I didn't have an answer for. You know, I went into work every single day being like, this is going to be the day that someone comes up and goes, what do we do about this? Or how do you feel about this? What is this story? Where is it going? And I'm going to go, oh my God, I don't know. But I never ran into that wall. It just informed itself every day. It really it was like excavating this pearl, and it was like in there, and everyone could feel that it was at the center of this like rock, and we just chipped and chipped and chipped. And I'm ultimately like really, really, really happy with it. It turned into something that it didn't start out as being.
Some of it was in the editing room.
100%. I mean, I shot it very editorially though, because I didn't really have time to just like, I didn't have time to overcover anything. I knew where we were going to be in every given moment.
Well, I mean, I've asked a lot of people this question. I mean, at a certain point, isn't it fun to sort of own what you know? That you actually have experience?
Yeah.
You're young to have had as much experience as you've had, but you aren't too young to own it.
No, that's true. It's funny because Jodie Foster told me I was helping honor her at this ceremony. I introduced her at her, I can't remember if it was like a star on the Walk of Fame or if it was like, I don't think it was a handprint. She got a star on the Walk of Fame. And I introduced her. And it was the first time I'd seen her in a really long time.
You did Panic Room together.
Yeah. And so she was like, what are you up to? What are you doing? And I told her I was making this short film. And she was like, finally, like I was surprised in knowing you when you were little. I'm surprised that you kept acting as much as you did, because you seem like somebody who wants to make something and do it yourself. And I was like, yeah, I'm actually just now starting to do that. I'm going to make a short film. And she was like, cool. Like the first thing that you're going to realize, or the first thing that you're going to learn, is that you already know. And, like, you just need to start doing it.
It isn't rocket science.
Yeah, it's not. No.
It really isn't,
no.
and a big movie would be bigger, but still, I could see you directing a feature, no question.
Thank you.
Do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm on my path,
for
sure.
And how much have you been thinking about using whatever clout you have to try to work with women directors more than ever?
The women that I've worked with recently are just so astoundingly inspiring to me. Like, Kelly Reichardt is a genius, and nobody can tell the stories that she tells because they come out of her. Like they are her. Trying to think. I think, you know, this question of like how difficult it is for women to get stuff made, and the very glaringly obvious inequality in the business and it's annoying, but I tend to not fixate on it because the women that I have worked with are so compulsively, they're such workers that it's just like, it's not what they've been focusing on, which is why they're getting things done.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? And then, while, having said that, that's not the most intelligent way of looking at it because it is, this sort of like snake eating itself situation. It does need to be talked about, absolutely, but the way that I want to talk about it is just being like, shut up, don't say like, oh, this is like a women in film party. I'm like, dude, how about just like filmmakers? Like, stop. It sounds obvious, and we need to do this for a while until we don't have to do it, and I totally get that. But I just can't wait for the time where you're not like, what does it feel like to be a woman in film? It's like, well, what does it feel like to just be a filmmaker? How about that for a question?
All right. Well, the other question, I mean, Tilda got one, Jessica Chastain got one. I mean, it's like, should Jessica Chastain, who's on the jury, have to say that movies are more important to her than fashion,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all an industry. I feel like all of those questions are like, probably asked by people that want hits on their website or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like all of that is driven by, for me, I feel like anything that takes the focus away from the work and like the motivation to do the work is usually media and money. And it's just, I always go like, and by the way, I work for Chanel. I love what they do. I love talking about it when it's the right time to talk about it. And it doesn't seem like someone's kind of trying to get at you in order to incorporate something into their story to make it more juicy or more, I don't know, click worthy.
Yeah, no, you get it. The other question would be how much you would be actively producing in terms of following the Reese Witherspoon or the Jessica Chastain model or Jodie, of being a driving force in certain projects.
Yeah, I think as a filmmaker, I could develop and ultimately never produce anything. I don't logistically speaking, I want nothing to do with it. Honestly, I want a producer to take care of the pearl and just get everyone away from it and let me like drive it. I don't want to produce. As an actor, I don't want to develop projects because if they don't pre-exist me, I can't honor them in the way that I need to. In order to really believe in a character, I feel like it needs to exist beyond me. And like it's almost like reading a history book and then being like, well, that happened. I can honor that. We need to preserve that life. Whereas if I have too much involvement in packaging and figuring out like who's going to write it and whatever, it just all seems like a muddy, weird industry process that I just don't like. So I don't want to be a producer. I want to be a writer and a director and an actor, and I love being a hired hand. I love, as an actor, I want someone to inspire me and then trust me, and that is just like gives me everything I need. I don't want to think of it myself,
So I had dinner the other night with sitting at my table, one of these long French dinners that you know very well, where I saw Isabelle Huppert, and it was a French dinner. Jessica Chastain, it was there, and then Juliette Binoche, and I said, I want to see you and Kristen do another Assayas movie together. Is there any progress on something along those lines?
I'm not sure if he's incorporating the two of us into something. That would be, obviously I would literally jump off the balcony to do that.
But you haven't heard any glimmers of anything real?
No. I mean, he's a mystery, like you won't hear from him for a while and then all of a sudden he just pops up with something and he's like, I want to do this right now. He's like, he's a kook. So, I bet if you said that to him, he would be like, yes, I agree. He would want to, for sure. I don't know what's on his mind right now. I wonder.
And what else have you got coming up that's soon to be seen?
I just am finishing a movie called Underwater.
Related?
Yeah, ironically. And my next project in about 6 weeks is called JT. It's based on the true story of J.T. Leroy.
You are such perfect casting for this.
Thank you.
Oh, this is a good story.
It's wild. It's so wild. Like, for anyone who wants to check it out, literally, like, you can.
It would be an
basically just
actor's
Google it.
dream.
Yeah. It's incredible. I basically get to play like two people.
But it's more than that. There's gender identity involved.
Oh no, I know.
Oh, it's such a complicated psychological puzzle.
I know, and she is a really wonderful person too, Savannah, the woman who actually personified this JT character. Like that person, I'm really happy to like reveal, because at this point, all the information you can get online, and it's really kind of wrapped up in like the show of it, and what happened on the inside is just so treacherous and interesting and sensitive, and she's a really beautiful, artistically like special person.
So Savannah is who you're playing, or the actual author, Laura?
That's Laura Dern is playing Laura.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that is very interesting.
Yeah, so she sort of enlisted her boyfriend's younger sister to physically personify this person, whereas she was the voice on the phone and, you know, the one at the keyboard, and she was a sort of theorist, and then, like, you know, Savannah kind of like did her bidding almost physically.
That'll be fun. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, of course. I know. Thank you.
Get up here.